evening. Sanbonani, goeienaand, dumelang. My name is Dries Pretorius. I'm the General Counsel of UJ. It is my honor and privilege to welcome everyone on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor and the University to the Professional Inauguration of Professor Crystal Hoole. A warm welcome to all of you, the family, especially the Kruger family, friends and colleagues of Crystal to this joyful and landmark moment. In particular, welcome to Professor Daniel van Lille, Executive Dean of the College of Business and Economics, and Professor Yvonne du Plessis, our respondent. Professor Yvonne du Plessis is a professor in organizational behavior and project management at the Northwest University Business School. Also, a warm welcome to all members of Senate and other colleagues and guests who are joining us here and via our online platform. Ladies and gentlemen, the inauguration of professors is a public ceremony in which a newly appointed professor is inducted into office and deliver the inaugural address. The ceremony of the inauguration of professors has its roots in medieval universities and serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it is an expression of welcome and an entry for new professors joining the circle of colleagues who are already professors. Secondly, it provides a platform for professors to display their expertise in the relevant disciplines and showcase their research. Thirdly, it stands out as a moment of pride and celebration for the incumbent, the family, fellow scholars, the university, and society. In essence, it is a celebration on the achievement of major milestones, contributions to the discipline, and ultimately the impact on society. Today we gathered to witness the entry of Professor Hoole to the illustrious community of scholars at the university. This evening we will listen to Professor Hoole as one further step in the journey of being a professor. This is a journey which does not culminate once the ceremony is over. It is a self-reflective pause in the journey of the professor, with a promise of more to come and enrich our minds in simultaneously contributing to the rich intellectual body of work in her discipline. Crystal, we are looking forward to your address. I now invite Executive Dean, Professor Daniel van Lille, to introduce Professor Hoole. Thank you.
Good evening, dear friends, family, colleagues. It's wonderful to have you all with us tonight to celebrate a life achievement of a remarkable person in our midst. A special word of welcome to all of you who are online tonight and who are also witnessing this great event. And Crystal, to you and your family, it's great to meet you in person. I've heard much about you, and all of us share stories of our families and where we come from. And it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. You are most welcome. So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce you to Professor Crystal Hoole. Professor Crystal Hoole has more than 23 years of experience in business. I don't quite buy it because I think you look around about 32. But profession and academic services. She sees herself as a visionary person, passionate about people and an enabler of potential. Her professional career started at the Department of Labor as a career counselor in 1992. Her sense of curiosity and her desire to learn and to gain more experience led to her involvement in small business development, which changed the course of her career towards pursuing her master's degree in industrial psychology. Her groundbreaking research, developing a structural equation model to identify entrepreneurs, was nominated for a Jenny Cole medal. In 1996, the University of Pretoria offered her a position as a researcher at the Graduate School of Management, and she completed her PhD in industrial psychology in 1998. Her sense of innovation crafted her reputation as an outstanding forger of corporate partnerships. For example, the first PhD in organizational behavior and several online and other training programs. In 2006, she was headhunted by Deloitte Consulting where she was tasked with the establishment of a new business unit, Business Information and Consulting Services, and later on Business Intelligence. For the next 8 years, Crystal extended her skills and experience base, serving in numerous strategic and leadership roles. As a registered industrial psychologist, she supervised interns and facilitated the integration between practice and academics wherever possible. In 2015, her desire for meaning and significance, and not necessarily success, led to her return to UJ, joining the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management as a senior lecturer. As an exceptionally productive individual, it soon resulted in her promotion to associate professor in 2018. Crystal's natural leadership abilities have served her well in the world of hardcore business from an operational and a strategic perspective, and simply because employee well-being, personal development, and organizational effectiveness were always the matters closest to her heart. And we see this, Crystal, every day in your behavior and what you mean, not just to your team and IPPN, but across the CBE, across the UJ community. She invested her time as an industrial psychologist heavily into promoting synergy between academia and business. For example, in the Society of Industrial Psychology of South Africa, where she was elected to the EXCO in 2017, and in 2021 as the president of CIOPSA. On the academic front, Crystal was appointed as the editor-in-chief of the South African Journal of Industrial Psychology in 2020, and soon raised the global impact bar significantly. Although Crystal sees herself as an all-rounder, it is in academia where her true passion lies. She truly believes that it's only through education that we can face the future. Since she joined UJ in 2015, she immersed herself in projects and initiatives focusing on employee well-being and preparing students for the future. In 2019, President Ramaphosa formed a presidential commission to help South Africa to take advantage of the challenges and opportunities offered by the fourth industrial revolution. In response to this challenge, CIOPSA embarked on a pioneering project where the future world of work was reimagined from an industrial psychology perspective. Crystal was also one of the 5 stream leads for this project, and a book has since been published. And I should add, Crystal, a lot of that wisdom flowed into the CBE and to the benefit of our graduates and our staff development actions. The project is of major importance, as not only it focuses on the future of industrial and organizational psychology, but training and development, reskilling, and preparing all people for the new world of work. The project will continue on a national and international scale. So, Crystal, tonight you will speak to the light of people, and the light shining brighter and brighter, the darker it becomes. Over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Professor van Ril, Dries, colleagues, Fersen, and also logging in, my sister at home. It's a surreal moment, really, and I have to pinch myself just to ensure myself that this is really happening. So I do not want to give a long, lengthy academic lecture tonight, because meaning and people is close to my heart and what I do and believe in life. This is what I would like to share with you tonight, and really just take you on a journey, touching a little bit on the different aspects of it, but also then show you a little bit about me, the real me who you don't always see. So I hope that you will enjoy this journey with me tonight. So one of the most asked questions, in my opinion, in life is, what is the meaning of life? And you will agree with me that we have constructed philosophies. We went to war over it. We designed models on it. We swear by it, and we still debate that question today. And some see this just as a philosophical question to debate about sometimes, while others would venture into this a little bit deeper, where they would say, but it actually talks about what is the purpose of your life. And this is something that has always been a question that has, I wouldn't say troubled me, but I asked that question from a very, very young age. And Friedrich Nietzsche said in the 1800s somewhere, he said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." And I live by that motto. So before I get into the more deeper questions of searching for meaning, the why, you might find it enlightening just to be reminded of some of the philosophies that has influenced the question of what is the meaning of life. And I must say I laughed at some of them because I couldn't believe that people actually debated that and that it was an actual philosophy, but nevertheless. So this lady, she saved me a lot of time by actually drafting this infographic, and I'm just going to speak to some of them. I'm not sure how clear that is to you, but anyway, I can make that available to you as well if you're interested. So just some of the philosophies that have influenced our thinking. So the first one was humanity's first attempt to explain existence was through pantheism. So pantheism originated in the 1600s by the work of Baruch Spinoza, and he believed that the entire universe makes up God, and that it's tolerable of many gods. And that was followed by theism, which is actually the exact opposite of pantheism, which is there's only one supreme God. And your meaning in life will be determined by what you believe your God values and what your God stands for. And I think most of the religions actually is built on that. And I am a Messianic Christian, so I believe that God, Yahweh, is the supreme God, and I live by that. That was followed by determinism, which says that all events happen because of pre-existing causes. We do not have a free will. Everything is predetermined, and life is and trying to understand it will be futile, and that's kind of a pessimistic approach. And then we had Confucianism, which says we can find meaning through cultivating virtue. Cynicism, there's a possibility of happiness, so it's kind of a skeptical approach. Hedonism, which is all about pleasure, and need for gratification is the ultimate purpose in life. And I think a lot of our younger generations, in our opinion, actually, they pretty much hedonistic in my opinion, but anyway. And then in the 4th century, it was Platonism, which was the beginning of science, which is the pursuit of knowledge. And Plato said that, he often quoted his teacher Socrates, which said, life unexamined is not worth living. And according to him, all knowledge already exists. We just need to discover it. And I remind myself of the philosopher in the Bible that said something similar. Everything under the sun already exists. So that's kind of interesting. Legalism then followed and says, we are actually quite selfish as a human species. And the only way to curb that is to put laws and things and structures into place. And if we do that, well, that's also then a virtue, and it helps society to flourish as well. And then modern humanism is one of the more popular philosophies of our recent time, which is there's nothing supernatural. It relies on science and reason, and humans themselves are responsible for the fate of humans. I cannot ascribe to that whatsoever. I think there's a place for science and reason, but there's also a place for religion and the higher moral activities in life. And then existentialism that appeared in the 1940s, which says that life is all about that initial angst when you are born. So what am I going to do in life? That anxiety and the meaninglessness in life. And you will find meaning by determining your own values and your own goals. And then you have to act upon that. And I strongly uphold these beliefs. Once you've determined what you want to do in life, you've got to act upon it. Otherwise, they just stay dreams in the sky. The interesting thing that happened since the late 19th and 20th century is that, we saw the professionalization of philosophy, and philosophy emerged into the different subject matters, and all sorts of interesting things happened in that. But we also saw in the contemporary period that we saw a rejection of transcendental beliefs, religious and spiritual ideas, and says that, science must be based on reality and rationalization. I should have moved this on a long time ago, hey. Okay. You know, I think we can all agree that that was important for the development of science, but we can safely say that philosophy and science today can coexist, and indeed they should so. Yeah, so let's just leave it at that. So what have we learned from, before I get to that point, what have we learned from all these philosophies? And that you can basically divide that into 4 different groups. Either life has objective meaning, or it has subjective meaning, no meaning whatsoever, or supernatural, unexplainable meaning. And then also then you've got the distinction between Western and Eastern philosophies and things like that. So how do we think about the meaning of life today? Most definitions would include similar elements in them. You will hear words like purpose, significance, and meaning, and coherence. And a definition by King I find quite apt. It summarizes it like this: lives may be experienced as meaningful when they are felt to have a significance beyond the trivial, of momentary, to have purpose, or to have a coherence that transcends chaos. It's quite a mouthful. Now, in the studies of searching for meaning, emphasis is usually placed on the level of meaning, the extent of meaning in your life, and the search for meaning, the extent to which people actively pursue meaning in their lives. But there are also 4 lesser-known areas of meaning that also deserves attention, meaning need for meaning, meaning confusion, meaning avoidance, and meaning anxiety. And I'm sure all of us have experienced that at some point in our lives. And Frankle was a key component of the notion that we are born with an innate drive to find meaning in our life. And one can also safely say that your need for meaning will drive your search for meaning. And your efforts will be hampered or rewarded depending on how clear you are in terms of your sense of meaning. So obviously, if you do not have a clear sense of meaning, you will suffer from meaning confusion. And the longer you struggle to find that meaning, you will suffer from either meaning avoidance and saying, this is not for me, let's just hide that somewhere, or meaning anxiety, where you just can't find that meaning in your life. So meaning as a topic has been a popular construct of studies for many years, and when I did this talk, and I initially thought, this is not really related to the work I'm doing, but it's actually got everything to do with the work that I'm doing. So you see it in positive psychology, mental health, cultural psychology, and so on. And meaning is central to human life, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. It connects things, and it provides an important resource in fighting stressful experiences in everyday life. So theoretically, the existence of meaning in one's life is directly associated with our well-being, your experience of personal growth and social contribution. And it's a very hot topic at the moment. And I'm not sure why all of a sudden at the moment, because it should always be a hot topic, because this is inherent to what we as human beings are supposed to be about. And another important construct that's very close to my heart is the meaning of life in terms of meaningful work. And meaningful work implies that a person would have a sense of harmony and completeness in their occupation. And since the sense of meaning are one of the most important motivational drivers in your life, it is not surprising that it finds gestalt in your occupation, your career, and your day-to-day existence. And there for me is 2 components of importance here. And the one is that work in itself must be meaningful, fulfill a need, and it must enable you to bring the best of you to fulfill a specific task. You must be able to use your strengths, your skills, your knowledge in a creative way. And of course, it's also linked to your value system. And also, it fulfills your whole sense of identity. So the workplace or the work you do provide that direct input or the opportunity or the place where you find the sense of meaningfulness. We spend so much time at the workplace or doing work, wherever that might be nowadays. So if it's not meaningful, you can imagine the impact that it will have on you as a human being. And that's why we as organizations, as leaders, as educators have such a great responsibility in ensuring that we're creating the right space for our students to be prepared for the world of work. But unfortunately, as you all know, work has not lived up to its promises. I don't have to tell you what we are experiencing in the workplace today. it's dissatisfaction, it's disillusionment, it's disengagement. Old models of career management has long been gone. People are really, those who are lucky to have work see it, as a paycheck. It's not a sense of meaningfulness. So that means that something really drastically went wrong about the work that we do and the place of work that we do it. People now have to reimagine their identities, and they have to be far more self-directed. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing, because it forces you to focus on the real you and the real identities that we think is situated in our work. I think work enhances our identity, but it's not the real you. So I think that is quite important. And, we are also seeing trends like the Great Resignation, where people are resigning from well-paid jobs to pursue jobs that's more meaningful to them. And that, for me, is an encouraging sign, but also a wake-up call for organizations. I don't just want to talk about theory and those kind of things. I also want to talk about my own personal journey, and how is it that I came to find meaning in my own life. As Dries said earlier on, your journey as a professor doesn't stop or end here. For me, it starts at the day that you are born, actually, although you don't know where you're going to end up at that stage. So everything in your life happens for a reason, and it happens to prepare you for a certain stage in your life. And like I've said before, I've grappled with this question about the meaningful life since I was very, very young. And it's only now that I understand how it's all connected and how it played out in my own vocation. So if I share tonight some personal things that may make you feel uncomfortable, that's not the intent. It's just to share the real me, and I'm not sorry or do not regret any of those things that came across my path. So Daniel, you said you didn't know much about my upbringing. So I had a troubled upbringing, alcoholic father, experienced abuse, poverty, and everything that's associated with those kind of things. And I can remember, since I had brains, knowledge, that I wanted a better future for myself. And that became my driving force in life. And it's only many years later that I've discovered the work of Viktor Frankle, Man's Search for Meaning. And if you haven't read his book yet, please do yourself a favor and read it again. And it still shapes my views and life to this very day. It not only gave me hope, but also explained why it was that, and this question also fascinates me, why in the same household one child will succeed and others will not succeed. So Viktor Frankl wrote his classic in his release from the Nazi prison camp. He was a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote the book saying to people that despite suffering, you can still find meaning. And he lost everything in those prison camps, except for his one sister. But still, he had hope in himself. And if it's not for hope, I think we will have a very difficult time to get through in life. Now think about the work that we do. Unemployment is such a big problem that we face today. That man that is unemployed, that has no hope, how do you offer him anything? But if he has hope, he will enhance his skills, he will do voluntary work until such a time that his breakthrough comes through. So that's the importance of hope in your life. So in the present setting, obviously, they were stripped of everything except one thing, and that's what he thrived on, and that's your attitude. He says you still have an attitude, how you react towards what's happening towards you. He gave ample examples of people in the prison environment that would give their last piece of bread, and they were extremely hungry, but they would offer it to somebody else, versus another guy that would go and split on a colleague. So you have that choice. What kind of prisoner are you going to be? What kind of survivor are you going to be? So under any circumstances, you have a choice what the outcome is going to be mentally and spiritually. How you accept your fate, I think, will determine whether it's going to make you stronger or whether you are going to be defeated by it. And I think that is definitely also one of my mottos in my life. So yeah, those prisoners also who had hope, they survived the Holocaust, and those who didn't probably died long before they exist. And I see that every day in the work that I do. People have ceased existing long before their time on earth is over. And we again have a responsibility to ensure that people do not lose that sense of hope, that they live until that last breath has been taken to the fullest of their potential. Now, Frankle, like many others, wanted to know how can we help people find that meaning and provide purpose in their life. And that's also part of my life task. And like him, I like these metaphors of light and dark, and that's part of the title of my talk tonight. And there were two defining moments that gave him hope. And the one was the one morning when he was bitterly cold on his way to work, and he was thinking about his wife. He didn't know whether she was still alive. She wasn't, but he didn't know that. And a white dove just from nowhere came and sat in front of him and just looked at him. And for him it was a sign. He chose that to be a sign. It could have been just by accident, but he chose that to be a sign. And the second one was again one morning on the way to work. In the distance, a farm light just went on. And he made the resolve that he was born for a purpose. He's going to finish that manuscript that was torn up when he landed up in Auschwitz, and he's going to help other people find meaning. Again, we do have that choice. And for him, much of life's demise can be traced to our failure of finding meaning, and I can attest to that. And Viktor Frankl said, we can find meaning in life the three ways: by the work that we do, by experiencing something or encountering someone in our relationship with others, or the attitude that we take towards difficult times in our lives. So when I think about life, I can see the meaning is created through the work that I do, in my interaction with people, and the contribution that I make to society. The key lessons that I would like to take from Frankl's story is that in life there will always be suffering. And it's not just limited to a selected few. We will always encounter that, but it's our attitude that will determine the outcome of that. The second lesson is the power of purpose. If we know what our purpose is, if we know the why, the how doesn't really matter. It will come automatically. And the third lesson is the true test of our character is revealed in how we act. And this is what other people see from you, is how do you act in different situations and circumstances. So how do I bring it back to my own life and my own journey? As I've mentioned, I grew up in difficult circumstances, but I knew I was destined for greater things. And like Frankl, there were key defining moments in my life, and I would like to highlight just a few of them. The moments when that bright light shone through the darkness to give me hope. I made the first promise I can ever remember when I was 4 years old, when I promised myself that I'm going to make a success of my life. What that was going to look like, I had no idea, and my ideas changed frequently, but nevertheless, the outcome was always the same: success. The second one was at high school when a teacher there who taught history and also trained our local orchestra took interest in me and just showed interest in me as a person. And for me, it was just wonderful that somebody didn't see the external circumstances. She saw me. And to this very day, every year on her birthday, I tell her, "You're still the favorite teacher of all times." And she made such a significant difference in my life without even knowing that. And then the third one was when I met the Kruger family, who are here tonight. It was a time in my life between 2004 and 2015 that was very dark. I lost everything. I've lost my entire family except for my sister. I lost my job. I lost my identity. All the success and the search for successes during those years mattered nothing. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know why I was born. I didn't know anything. I was in the darkest dungeons of despair. But this family took me in. They showed me what it is to love unconditionally, and they nursed me back to life. They also helped me through my own deepest existential crisis in finding the real me. And I had to reflect. I had to start all these things that we teach our students, reflect often. And I had to realize that life is about others. It's about otherness. First part was about success, and it was about survival and self-centeredness. But it's really, I find the greatest meaning when I extend that to others and I develop the potential in others. Hence why I said I'm the enabler of potential. And I live by that. So, Jan, Teresa, Arnel, and Weinand, you saved my life more than once. So thank you very much. Yeah. So, yes, significance versus success, finding meaning and purpose, finding the real me. That's what it was all about. So I joined academia for the first time in 1998. I think I've already mentioned that. And then I rejoined it in 2015, where I was a little bit disappointed because, I mean, obviously I was a social professor when I left in 2006, and now I have to start at the bottom again, you know. And Crystal doesn't like doing things twice over. She hates that. But I embraced it, and I really reminded myself that there's a purpose for it, and after all, it's not about success, it's about significance, and the reason why I came back to academia was because of significance. And yeah, the rest is kind of history, and I came back and I worked my way through. I never thought I would really get to this point, but I can also say that my work over the last couple of years on meaningful work and employee well-being and my own journey of finding meaning was hugely satisfying. And no, I didn't always think it was great. There were times that I really cried and I was in despair, but I persevered because I was a strong girl, and I'm going to remain a strong girl until the day that I've died, until my ticket is used up. And I think I've transformed from a self-centered individual to an other-centered individual. Of course, there's still moments that it's about me, like tonight, but it's not often that I get that opportunity to enjoy it, so tonight I will enjoy it with you. So just to conclude then tonight, when you're passionate about something, you know, the opportunities will just open up. I cannot imagine how good God was over the last couple of years and what has happened. And I think I'm blessed to make a significant contribution to my colleagues, to my society, to my friends, and hopefully to my sister at home. We often tease each other, we don't like each other very much, but we love each other. And so today was not about celebrating my academic knowledge, but about the person that I have become, and hopefully to become even a better person. So I think I found my place, I found my purpose, and I would like to believe that I too have become a shining light. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am the respondent. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm going to start. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. Thank you very much for the invitation to be the respondent to this extraordinary inaugural lecture delivered by Professor Crystal Hoole, whom I've known for more than 20 years, as an academic, as a practitioner, as a friend. And in this lecture, In Search of Meaning, et lux in tenebris, lucet, I would like to say the following and respond on Crystal's fantastic, different type of inaugural lecture. I've been sitting here on the edge of this chair for the whole period that she spoke. And I just want to say that my total being went through circles of life in search of my own meaning. And I could feel the search for meaning and the journey that you went through from early life until where you are now. And I think it's so important for us to feel the search for meaning, because if you don't feel something, it doesn't become a reality. And this is, why is this important for us as human beings, as people, to actually find our purpose? And if you cannot do it without reflexive practices. And not that I only had a roller coaster thought process while you were doing your lecture. I also gained, and I think all of us gained much more knowledge around philosophical, theoretical, and practical perspectives around the meaning of life and the search for meaning of life. And if I could just say a few things around this from your lecture, is that from a philosophical point of view, of course, all of us in academia are triggered with philosophies because we've got to keep that in mind. And then what is your philosophy? Because it actually determines your thought process and where you're going. But you introduced Anna Vital as a summation, and you said that you also made it easier for you. Thank you for that, because it's going to make it so much easier for many of us as well. Then, of course, your focus on Viktor Frankle, who I see as your father in terms of guiding your way and your path through seeking meaning, and that we were all born with the innate drive to find meaning in life, as you have stated that as well. However, it can vary from person to person. And I think the message that you bring forward is that we must strive for that, and we go through cycles, and we mustn't be scared of that. However, we can become confused, but we've got to make that decision to move through that. So that's from a philosophical point of view. From a theoretical point of view, of course, which is very often the academic base and the academe around this, is the whole thing about search for meaning and one's well-being. And that fits in directly within your field of industrial psychology and, of course, human resource management. And as you've also stated, that this is something that a lot of us are hearing nowadays, because we felt the COVID-19 dilemmas, and people are struggling for jobs. We know our own story in South Africa. But the personal growth that it brings to us, as well as our social contribution, all lies within how we are looking for meaning and searching for meaning. And then from a practical point of view, the whole thing around meaningful workplaces and the meaningful work. And I think this is where it comes in when you look at the full circle of being a whole person, is that it's not just philosophical, it's not just theoretical, but there's also a practical side to this, to actually understand what is it that we have to do as academic people. And in your case, is your creation in life is to actually bring this forward in making it better for other people by shining the light and help them to actually achieve what is necessary. And therefore, Crystal, I thank you for sharing your journey with us in finding meaning and creating meaning, and how meaning actually influences the pathways of people. And for you specifically mentioning in your previous, our discussions previously, is that the three things about Viktor Frankl that you actually swear by, because in a certain way they actually drive the meaningful path, is that suffering is there, and if you don't tackle your sufferings and learn from it, obviously it's not in vain. It comes to you for certain reasons. The power of purpose, as you've mentioned as well, that we have got hardships, but how do we overcome those hardships? And our reason for staying alive. And then the true test of our character, as you said, it doesn't help us just to speak. Talk is cheap. And the whole thing lies in action. And I think this is what you wanted to emphasize as well, is that as a human being yourself, there could be a lot of talk, and there could be a lot of qualifications and a lot of sort of accolades in terms of what you have achieved. But the whole thing is, how do you act, and how do you actually share your own experiences and actually help other people to actually achieve also their meaning in life? So in conclusion, I know that I've got to be short, but in conclusion, I just want to say, I'm very honored to be part of your life and have been a part of your life for many, many years. And maybe I must also just tell the audience a little story, because when I wanted to do my PhD, and I just have to tell this because we are talking about these stories now, is that I was searching for somebody to be my supervisor or my promoter. I couldn't find anyone because I did quite a funny multidisciplinary type of PhD. And there was Crystal, started up just after she qualified and came into academia. I wasn't an academic, I was still a practitioner. And somebody said to me, go and talk to Crystal, she might be able to help you. And I went to Crystal and I said, Crystal, here I am. I would like to pursue a PhD. And we started talking and we laughed. And we still up to today, we laugh about this because the two of us got onto this journey. And in 2 years' time, I had my PhD. Now, that is just Crystal in her way of assisting and supporting. And obviously, at the end of the day, is here I am again. I'm your respondent. So it's like a full cycle that happened. And I want to applaud you, Crystal, for your enlightenment and sharing this extraordinary journey of yours and being actually, as you also mentioned, it could be sensitive to certain people, but you didn't disclose too much, but being brutally honest in sharing your journey of finding meaning, your place, your purpose. And I know that the person who you are currently is surely going to enable and empower many others to find their meaning. And I just want to say to Professor van Lille in particular, and the University of Johannesburg in general, you are so fortunate to have a Professor Crystal Hoole as an academic leader in your midst. Stay blessed. I thank you.
Okay. Probeer weer.
Dis 'n storie of perseverance.
Bietjie hoor. Daar's hy. Thanks a lot. Crystal, congratulations. I must say I read your entry reader with some fascination, and I really enjoyed it. And anything I can say from the university, from the Vice-Chancellor, from myself personally, I can only wish you lots and lots of more bright lights in your life. And yeah, that's it for the evening. Borja, thank you. Thank you very much.